Hi, I'm Timothy Batten, and you're watching Welcome Home Doggy, where we talk about creating a better quality of life for all dogs. Today we're going to be talking with Liz Stubbs of Liz Stubbs Photography. So stay tuned with us and we'll be right back. Liz, hi,
Hey.
welcome.
Thanks, Tim.
So very nice to have you with us today. So you own and operate Liz Stubbs Photography.
I do.
So why don't you tell us a little about that, how you got into that, why you're so passionate about it, and everything all our viewers want to know.
Okay, well, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to talk about photography in terms of pets and their people, because I think that's a really magical combination that pets bring out the best in us. I'll tell you a little bit about how I got into photography. Ever since I was about 7, with my Polaroid land camera, do you remember those with the instant
Of course.
film, you know, that smelled great as it was developing?
It's all the rage now, everything's retro, we're going back.
I know, I'm looking for my old one, but I used to wander around and make portraits of my family from sort of knee-high, and I would take pictures of the turtles in the backyard and my dog. There was just endless series of portraits with my dog. And it was my way of sort of exploring and discovering the world, but it was also my way of kind of framing out the things that I didn't want to see and framing in the things that brought me joy, that I wanted to celebrate. And so photography was a passion from the get-go. And as I discovered more about the world and how I wanted to create in the world, I went through a lot of phases of writing and producing, directing, but photography has always been the through line. And I had this sort of life-changing experience with photography when I went to a workshop a couple of years ago with a Magnum photographer, and that used to be my idea of the ultimate, to belong to the Magnum agency of photographers. And he said, he looked at my portfolio and he said, "Where are you in your work?" And I thought this was going to be a street photography workshop where I spent the week wandering New York and coming back with a body of work. And he said, "No, I want you to go back to your hotel room for the week and spend it finding yourself." And it was one of the most terrifying things anyone had ever challenged me to do, and one of the most rich, because I began to see myself in my own work, literally and metaphorically, as someone who sort of hid and diminished and was small in the frame. And I realized that that's how I was showing up in life. And I began to sort of consciously change from that, you know, how I showed up in my own portraiture. And I became more animated, and I became more expressive, and I embodied the person that I knew I was, right? But it took being able to see myself in my own frame to understand and remember that that's my best self.
See. So I do have a quote from your website, because that really made me think of this, and I wanted to ask you about. It says, "My greatest privilege and joy is to celebrate the art of a person, what lights us up from within. When we see ourselves through that lens, we bloom, transforming how we show up in life."
Totally.
And it sounds like that's what happened to you.
Yeah.
So how does that equate to your work now and how you like to bring those things out of other people?
Yeah.
As we spoke on Friday previously, we talked about you had that background in psychology as well. So how do you kind of loop all that back around and help people to experience that through your lens?
It does feel like it comes full circle, and everything works together in terms of experience and what I love to create for people now, which is I like to create a space for people to to play and to be that expression of themselves that has nothing to do with the role that they play in their daily life, and that has nothing to do with, most people walk into my studio and apologize. And they say, I didn't sleep well last night. I haven't lost the weight that I intended to lose. My eyes are puffy. Can you use the filter that takes off 20 pounds? And it kind of breaks my heart because, we are so much more than the things that we see in the mirror. We are these really incredible beings of radiance and possibility and exuberance. And if someone has the space to be that and to connect to that, and then they come away with a portrait that for them is sort of that visual touchstone of what lives inside, that's so much brighter than the to-do list that hasn't been done, or the mother role, or the sister role, or the professional, whatever, then we remind ourselves of all the possibility that we are unlimited and that we can really shift how we experience our own lives and how we show up for others. That's what I hope to give in photography.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, we talked a lot about the human experience.
Yeah.
So how did you begin to understand that you wanted to shoot pets? Like, how does that loop back in with that as well?
Yeah.
Is that we spoke about Ernie.
Yes.
And I would love to hear more about Ernie.
Oh my God,
and
he would
how
love to
that
be
happened.
So Ernie is my rescue, my second rescue, and he is about 10 years old, and he is the love of my life currently, and because they all are. But he was the rescue that I didn't know I was going to be able to handle. He didn't even understand when I rescued him. He was about 8 months old, and he'd been in a crate most of his life. He was supposed to have been euthanized month after month, but because he was so handsome, this is the story I'm told, the vet techs were like, oh, we don't have enough, euthanasia. And he was in North Florida, South Georgia, and some group online found him, and they were in Minnesota or some far off place, and they found him a foster mom. And she put him on a Shar-Pei rescue site, and that's where I saw him. And I was immediately hooked because I was instantly thinking, oh, okay, we have to change his name. He was Big Mike then, and I was, working on names within 5 minutes. And I was like, all right, I'm sunk. But despite his loveliness, he didn't know how to be petted. He was a fairly wild child, very insecure, had a lot of very... I would say assertive tendencies. He talked with his mouth in a biting kind of a way, and it took a village to get him to the point where he understood that love was possible, and that he could be content with his family. And so that's part of what I think is so beautiful about Welcome Home Doggy, is connecting that support family when you are in a situation with rescue that feels out of control. There's always a way. But in terms of what he brought to photography, he was my studio pup. And so for people who come, who are dog people, they always ask for him to be there because he's, he relaxes them.
Sure.
And he's great at getting people in a good mood, but he, after a certain amount of time of laying low with his toy in the corner, he will photobomb. He will bring his favorite toy over to the person, and they would melt. He would transform them. They would forget that they were tired. They would forget that they were focusing on presenting themselves. They would forget about posing. And what would come to life for them is this, puppies play. That's just so beautiful. And they remind us that there is such joy in the moment of just connecting and play. And so I would always shoot through those moments of photobombing because people would just drop all the veneer and they would be someone completely new and luminous, and they loved those images. And so it turned into pets and their people, or pups and their people. And there's a lot of magic in just focusing on that relationship and that connection and what they bring out in us.
I see.
That's different.
Now, I know that you did bring some pictures with you as well, because we did speak about, sometimes people don't have the time, or they don't have the interest in being in front of a camera.
Absolutely.
Now, and you have a great picture of a mutual friend of ours that shows one of those connections that you're talking about. And then also another way that for people that don't want to come in and shoot, do you want to share that now? That'd be a good time. Okay.
Sure. Yeah. This is more of a contemporary portrait. This is, a great moment between these two, and I think it captures a little bit of the love that they share. And then, because our friend is camera shy and doesn't enjoy having photos made of him that feature him, what we wanted to create was sort of this celebration of the relationship of the two of them that I'm calling pop art pups. And it's this sort of stylized art that allows the person to sort of see themselves in a very energetic and colorful way, as opposed to, I didn't sleep last night, or whatever their perceived limitations might be. But it celebrates that relationship with their dog in a way that's they can overlook seeing themselves. But they don't have to come into the studio. This is something that if they have an image file that's a favorite picture of their dog and them, if it's a big enough file size, it's something that I can work with and I can transform into a pop art piece for them.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any other advice for people doing their own portraits, anything like that?
Absolutely.
Would you like to talk about?
Yeah. I'd say that one of the lessons that I learned with Ernie in this process is that we can be so in our heads as people, we can be so in our thoughts that we wear those thoughts on our outside, and we can seem a little stiff or a little removed, and dogs bring us back to our hearts. So I would say advice would be focus on the connection, focus on what you two bring out in each other and play, and just find those moments of connection rather than trying to pose so that you're artfully arranged with your dog, because that can be very fleetingly successful. And if you focus on that connection that you share and capture the relationship, you can have a lot of fun with just a portrait of personality rather than a portrait of a pose.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So do you only do dogs, or do you also do cats? Because I've got a cat, and if you can get her to sit still for a photograph, I would pay you a lot of money. It's just not going to work. Caroline doesn't want to play.
I am in for whatever the pet is.
Okay.
I have a soft spot for the dog, but wombats, elephants, bring it on.
I got you. So you run the whole gamut. If you can get a camera on them, you're going to shoot them.
Certainly.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
I know Ernie was a rescue.
Yeah.
And I know that rescue's not for everyone. Do you have any advice for people thinking about joining rescues, or any things that other people can do for rescues?
Yeah. I think that even if you're not able to take in a dog or a cat, and you want to contribute in some way, and you want to connect in some way, there's so many ways that you can do it. You can really find what works for you. Even if you took your iPhone and you wanted to make photos of animals that are available for adoption or foster, if you wanted to walk them at shelters, you can volunteer to do that. You can do Kickstarter campaigns to help rescue dogs in need or cats in need. You can lobby against puppy mills. But there's so many ways that you can donate, that you can help. There's even people who are sick, who are not able to take care of their own dogs, maybe dog walking for them. I mean, there's just really creative ways that you can support the community that supports rescue and, help connect the furries to their forever families.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, you and I spoke previously about celebrating us.
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about that today. What are things that you and Ernie do every day to celebrate each other?
We take a love photo every day.
Love photo.
Yeah.
Come on.
So we start the day with many things with Ernie, but on our walk, we take a love photo. I always take my phone with us, and we just do some, a quick snap of the two of us. He's very expressive, and so it's fun to find a different way to celebrate the two of us every day, just as something I can share with my family who don't live in Georgia and don't get to experience Ernie, but they love him. But it also connects the two of us, and it's fun. For me, it's an activity that we can do together. We can find a new environment, or we can, sometimes he'll be playing, and we can be creative. It's just a fun way to celebrate you and your pet, your pup or your cat. But it reminds us, right? It's that joy and that play, and it reminds us that we don't have to be so in the boxes of our life. We can just be in the moment and be joyful.
What advice would you have for people coming in to have some portraits done with you, with or without their pup? Because I know being in front of a camera is never easy.
Yeah.
And the things that you've talked about, like having Ernie there and pulling them out of that and they forget about themselves.
Yeah.
But what is some advice you have for people that are coming in for photos?
I would say treat it as an invitation to play. Come open. And I would hope that the photographer that you choose is someone who is able to be responsive in the moment. And it's not, for me, it's not so much about a formula. Yes, headshots, branding, whatever it is that you need, we get, but I also want to include in every session just play. And it's an invitation to just be kind of freestyling. And you can dance, whatever it is that seems like it wants to happen with that person, whatever their energy is. We do a little, it's like going to those, what were those little photo booths that were all the rage and those...
Yes. You get the little strip out of there, you get your little 4 little 5 little pictures, sure.
Totally, so it's like a little bonus session at the end of the portrait session where we just get to have fun. And those moments are usually the ones that are the richest in terms of portraits that are truly expressive. Fantastic.
Well, Liz, thank you so much for joining us today and taking time out of your busy schedule. Where can we find your work?
Yes. My website is lizstubbsphotography.com, and I'm also on Instagram at lizstubbs.
Wonderful. Well, it looks like that's all the time we have for today. I want to thank you for joining us at Welcome Home Doggy. Tune in next week for another episode where you can learn how to create a better quality of life for all dogs. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and visit our website for more information about Liz and her work and Welcome Home Doggy. I'm your host, Timothy Batten, and thanks for joining us.
Do you own a dog, cat, bird, or other pet? Did you know that many homeowners and renters policies don't cover animal or pet liability claims, so you may be held liable if an incident, accident, or claim occurs? At X Insurance, we provide customized liability insurance coverage for any animal or pet regardless of type, size, age, or bite history. X Insurance provides third-party liability coverage for injuries or property damage done to others by your pet. An X Insurance policy will fill the gaps in your homeowner's or renter's coverage and provide the protection you need for true peace of mind to protect your assets. X Insurance offers 30-plus years of professional experience, providing solutions for many types of specialty risks in all 50 states. If you own an ATV, electric scooter, golf cart, etc., then we've got you covered. Visit xinsurance.com or call 877-585-2853 today to learn more or to get a free quote.